Hi everyone. So this is the video where I'm going to go over the thesis document that we reviewed in class. So those of you who might have missed class can look at this, and again, or if you were in class and you just want a refresher, you can watch this as well. So what I have here are pairs of theses on a topic, and we want to talk about which one is better and why. So let's go to the first one. It says, for Thanksgiving, many Arab Americans cook the rice dish hashway instead of stuffing. Okay. And then our second one is, although for many hashway is not seen as a traditional Thanksgiving dish, the rice dish actually does fit in with the spirit of more traditional Thanksgiving sides. What do you think is the best one? I'll give you a second to think about it. If you said the second one, that is correct, right? And let's think about the reason that's the case, right? Because that's what's really important. Because if you understand the reason, then you can understand what to do in your own situations. If you can just pick it out when you see it, then it doesn't necessarily help you write your own. So let's look at why this is better. Well, let's look at why this one isn't so good. This is simply a fact, right? This happens. Many Arab American cooks a rice dish called hashway. That's true, but it's not something that is provable. It's not something that requires an essay in order to be able to talk about that. If you look at the second one, although hashway is not seen as a traditional Thanksgiving dish, the rice dish actually does fit in with the spirit of more traditional Thanksgiving sides. Realize that that one is choosing a side. That one is saying, look, I have a particular point of view here, a particular perspective on the issue. That is, that this dish does fit in with the spirit of more traditional Thanksgiving sides. I do want you to notice that I use this although there, right? Because realize that what the although is doing is it's saying some people may think that it's not traditional, right? On the other side, this thesis says no, but it actually does fit in, right? And so you realize that that although is setting up a contrast and it's showing that there are two different views here, and it's choosing one side, and that's what we want for a thesis, something that needs to be proved here. So keep that in mind, and you'll see that with some of the other ones that I have here. So again, this one takes a side. That is, some people might say, no one should ever have this dish for Thanksgiving. That's not traditional. But this other person is saying, no, I think it actually could be a traditional dish, and let's talk about what that is, right? And so when we've got kind of a debate, an argument going on with either side, then we know we've got something that's good. Let's look at the next one here. It says, many of my neighbors in Brooklyn thought that the police should do more to stop the people riding their bikes through the streets. However, I've come to realize that bike life is a culture that means a great deal to its participants, and so simply arresting them would be a great loss to the community. Right? Or we could have the groups of people riding their bikes through my neighborhood in Brooklyn would do some pretty amazing tricks. Which one do we want to choose? Right, if you said the first one, you are correct here, right? You'll notice that if nothing else, so far it seems like the longer one is going to be the better one. And that's because that's got more to be able to say here. We're providing some context that gives a particular perspective as opposed to simply saying a fact. The group of people riding their bikes in my neighborhood would do some pretty amazing tricks. Well, that's true. They might do some pretty amazing tricks, but what is the perspective that you're providing here? And that's what we need to have. And this one is saying that look, it's a culture that means a great deal to its participants. So therefore, we need to think beyond just simply arresting people. Notice again that we've got this first sentence, and it's okay for your thesis to have more than one sentence. We've got this first sentence that says some people think that we ought to crack down on people riding these bikes, get the police out here and arrest people. However, right? It's a word similar to although. It's showing that there's a contrast here. Some people think this, that we should increase police enforcement. However, on the other side, I have come to realize something else and saying that arresting people would be a great loss to the community. So we've got a debate here about how much the police should potentially be involved. And by I'm coming down, this one is coming down on one side or the other, right? It's saying we should not have more police involvement. It's recognizing that some people think that we should have more police involvement, but saying, no, that's not really a good idea. Here is the better idea. And that's, again, going to be something that's provable, something that we're going to need some evidence, some research in order to be able to back up, right? Why do you think, these people, these kids are, blocking up the streets, and it's dangerous, and we can't get to work and things like that. Why would you say that we shouldn't get the police involved? All right, I'll tell you why, and let me offer up some evidence to explain why that's the case. And so it puts some pressure on the person writing this to be able to prove this point. Okay. So the next one, if you go to any of the Italian bakeries in my town on Sunday, you'll have to wait in line for up to half hour to be served. Second one, I used to be annoyed at having to wait in line so long. Sorry, used to be annoyed at having to wait in line so long at the Italian bakeries in my town. However, now when I see the long lines, they remind me of how easily immigrant experiences can become part of mainstream American culture. Right? Hopefully, you got this one right. Now, you see that it is longer, right? You'll also see it's got that however in there, right? Because it's saying, look, I get annoyed because I have to wait in line for the bakery. Well, that may be true, right? You go to the bakery, you have to wait in a long line there for a half hour. But however, here's what we can learn from this, right? Here's a big idea about how easily immigrant experiences can become part of mainstream American culture. And so that's an idea that we can potentially explore, right? To what extent do these immigrant experiences become mainstream? How is it that the culture accepts certain ideas from other cultures that become and almost become completely Americanized, right? We can see that in things like bagels. We can see that in things like tacos. We can see that in things like pizza. All of these kinds of things, which are part of an immigrant experience, but have come to be seen as so completely American on some level. And I think that that's something that we can begin to explore here, begin to prove how that becomes the case, right? We need some research in order to be able to back that up. I don't need research in order to say that I had to wait in line for a half hour. I can tell you, I went yesterday, and I had to wait in line for a half hour. But I'm going to have a hard time getting 750 words out of this. Out of that, this I can get those 750 words because I'm going to need some research in order to be able to back that up. Next one, hopefully it's obvious as well. I really miss the block parties we used to have on my old street in Brooklyn, and I used to think that block parties were just a time to eat and have fun. However, now I realize that block parties are an important way for residents of big cities to create the social ties necessary to keep their neighborhood a safe and pleasant place to live. So again, you should recognize this is longer. It's got that however in there, right? This is just I miss the parties, right? I can tell you what happened there. Okay, it was kind of fun, as opposed to saying, no, 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 there's a bigger idea here, right? Block parties are not just let's break out the barbecue and get a bouncy house. Block parties are about this other thing, so creating the social ties necessary to keep the neighborhood safe and a pleasant place to live. That is, if you have a block party with people and then you have some kind of a problem on the neighborhood, you can know to be able to. I mean, contact my neighbor down the way, and did you see anything weird going on, right? We got some issues here in terms of the block's not as clean as it should be. Can we get together and work on that together? And so the block parties become a way to create social ties here. So again, that's a bigger point that needs to be proved as opposed to, yeah, there was a fun block party. So keep those ideas in mind. Keep the sense of a good thesis in mind as you work towards creating a thesis for your culture project. You want to have these kinds of theses, right? And so this document's in the folder on Blackboard, so you can go ahead and review it. But again, keep these ideas in mind as you work on the draft of your culture project.